Ah, man, I'm swamped. Too many calls coming in. I'll get it later. Yeah, I'll get it. Don't worry about it. Can someone get that? I'm on my break. Okay. Oh, hey, everyone. Sorry I'm a bit late. I've just been swamped with calls here at work. I opened up a Korean language advice hotline, and it's just been nonstop calls, like back to back ever since. And I haven't even gotten any time to go back home. I've just been here. I haven't washed my shirt either. How's everyone doing? See who's here. I see, of course, you've also all tuned into this Korean hotline that I'm doing. Great. Now I've got more people to take care of here. Let's see who's in the chat already. Anyone I recognize? Hey, Cosma, MG, Keith, Lexica, Kai, Lady Natbug, Flo, I am Ben, Fisho, Mikey. I'm just reading all the names that I recognize right away. Welcome. Hey, Kyled. Hope you're all doing well. I won't be able to stick around for the stream today, but I wanted to pop in and say hi. Take care and have fun. Thank you so much, Kyled. You know what? I'm not supposed to do this. I'm supposed to use this board for, like, I don't know, sales goals or something like that, but I'm going to put your name up on here. Just if the boss comes, just, I didn't do this, okay? God, that guy's got eyes everywhere. Thank you so much, Kyled. Really appreciate that. They don't pay me enough around here, so that'll get me some nice lunch later today. Yeah, seriously, super generous. Lexica says, 안녕하세요, 선생님. Welcome. Nastaria, welcome. Did I miss anyone who I know? Oh, Brian Biggs, Suzanne Lopes. I feel like I'm reading credits at the end of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Sunny Southpaw, music for the happy soul. Channy's laptop. 여기서 한국어를 배우고 있는 사람 있나요? Is there someone learning Korean? Yes, there are many people learning Korean here. I think so. That's why all of you guys are hanging out here at the, you sound like you're getting over a cold. No, I'm not getting over a cold. I actually bit my tongue while eating some pork for my lunch. But other than that, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm actually really good. Except, I mean, yeah, I'm really good, especially because right now I'm on my break. I'm not sure what I'm doing in the office here. I should go over to the break room. I'll go over to the break room later. Right now, you know, there's no time. I keep getting phone calls. People keep calling in. I've got some calls though. I really do have to take some calls, so I have to get back to work soon. I'm just gonna kind of say hi to everyone, and then I'll go back to my work in a second. Kyled. So I actually don't even know how to say your name. Is it Kyled or Kyled? I'm just gonna say it's Kyled because it kind of flows off the tongue like that. Slowbo Guitar. Hello. Frizzy B says, I'm learning Korean. I can read Hangul, but I don't know enough vocab. Yeah, I mean, the alphabet's the most basic part to learn, I'd say. So not knowing vocab or not knowing sentences yet, you're where you're supposed to be. That sounds pretty normal to me. Can someone else get... I'll come back. Just wait. Just give me a second. One second. Okay, yeah, they'll take care of it for just a second. They really want me to get back on the phone calls. I got to answer some of these calls and help out with questions. 1 minute, I promise. Okay, just 1 minute. No, really, for real this time. Dang it, this pushing all this work on me, I swear. Lexica says, jumping in before minute 7 to help Billy meet his sales goals and call metrics. Thank you so much, Lexica. You know how it is. I worked at a call center before, and so let's talk about your sales this month. You know that you just don't want to talk about it. Like, let's not, you know, minimum wage. You know what? I don't care about my sales metrics. You're not paying me to care about my sales metrics, are you? Thank you, Lexica. Yeah, so I'm supposed to take some calls now. So let me just take a call. So here's how it's going to work. Some of you, actually, this past week, I let you know in advance that this is going to be going on. So if you were paying attention, if you're following, then you already know what's going on. I had you send in your questions, an audio file to my email, and then I'm going to be playing some of those. We got a lot, but I'm going to be playing some of them today over the phone system we've got rigged up here. So we're going to be playing those. I'm going to be answering those questions live for you today, kind of like a live hotline, you know, just kind of hear your voice, interact with the people who are watching me every single week. So I figured we'll try that this week. You're also welcome if you'd like, if you didn't send in one, but you think, oh, I want to, you can send in one. Let me show you let me show you our little information page. You can just send your audio file right to Billy at gobillykorean.com. I will listen to it. I won't be listening to it live. I'll probably put you on hold and listen to it and then play it after. That's how things have to work behind the scenes here, just in case there's a troll that tries to send in a weird recording. So I gotta be safe these days. But the ones that I've already listened to, so we're good for those. So I'm gonna play one of those, and yeah, I said I'm going back to the phones, dude. You do it. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I'll go. So I really have to take a phone call. So let's see what we got here first. Okay. Let's see. I'll push and operated this phone line in a long time. I don't know how it quite works. Okay, I think this person's been waiting on hold for a while. So let me just take their call right here. Hold on. Oh, I see. It shows on hold. We've got a Keith. We have Keith calling. Let's see what Keith's up to. Hello, Keith. Can you hear me?
Are there any grammar points that are always taught but very seldom used?
Can you say that again? One more time. Can we hear that one more time? Oops. Wrong one. There we go. This one.
Are there any grammar points that are always taught but very seldom used?
So Keith, hopefully, can you all hear that? Can you all hear that? Yeah, in case someone rickrolls me, I've already listened to these. That's the reason why. I don't want to get rickrolled live. I don't mind getting rickrolled, but I don't want it to be on my stream for copyright issues. Let's see. Okay, good. Glad you can hear. All right. Okay, Keith's like super weird experience. So Keith asked an interesting question. All right. Hopefully you're still on the line with us, Keith. So for our first question today, Keith asks, what are like basically you're asking like, what would be grammar forms that are taught in Korean, but that are actually seldom used? And yeah, there are a lot of them, but there's one I think that we could talk about that comes to mind right now since this is live. I haven't really thought about answers to this. I've just quickly previewed it and played it. There is a grammar form that many of you have learned already if you've learned the really basics, and that is the shida form. It means let's. There's a lot of this sort of grammar stuff we're going to talk about, but the grammar form let's, for example, like you add piup shida after a vowel. You take a verb stem first, I should start from the beginning. You take a verb stem, so that's just like hada or any verb with ta, you just remove the ta and you're done. If the verb stem, there's one exception, if the verb stem ends with a lir, for example, like there aren't too many of these and that you would even use this, but let's just use like norda to play. Well, the stem is nor. So if it ends with this, you just remove it. That's the only exception, and there aren't that many of them. Besides really just that verb I gave you, norda, which is like to hang out or play. So you attach piup shida if it ends in a consonant. So hada become 합시다, like let's do something. Like 공부하다, to study, you could be like 공부합시다, like let's study. And if it ends in a consonant, however, this form isn't really common. I guess you can get kind of what I'm trying to say. You would attach up followed by shida if the verb stem ends in a consonant, like if you're talking like 먹다, to eat, 먹읍시다, like that. I'm not even going to write it. So this is actually, it is used. This is a real form, and it does mean let's. And it's often taught as a polite way of saying let's go, like 가다, 갑시다, except for a few exceptions, like 갑시다, like let's go, except for a few exceptions where it's used kind of like it's kind of more used like a phrase than it is actually used as a grammar form. This grammar form is not really used because it sounds like you're actually kind of talking down to the person. a form that someone in a higher position uses to someone in a lower position to sound polite. It's like, I'm your boss talking politely to you. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's try, like all this stuff. It is not used in regular conversation. There are some exceptions like 갑시다 for 가다. You can kind of use it playfully, like 갑시다, like let us go. But it sounds like you're jokingly talking down to the people you're with. And they'll accept it. It's not going to be rude. But except for a few exceptions like that, this form isn't actually used, but every resource teaches it. Mine teach it, but include this note about how it's not used. There's some more stuff though. Oh, we got a donation. Sunny Southpaw. 정말 감사합니다, 빌리 씨. Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna write your name up here too. The boss isn't gonna catch. They don't even look at my board actually until like end of the quarter. Sunny Southpaw. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So yes, this is a form you should know, but know that you don't use it. There is more though. Since your question though is specifically about like grammar forms, I'm not going to go too much into this. There's a lot of stuff that gets taught but isn't actually used. Let me think of something good, because there's a bunch of expressions that you're going to learn that are never used. One of them is, I don't know if anyone's learned this one. 천만에요. If anyone has learned this, raise your hand. These days, though, most people don't learn it. This is an old expression. I'd say people who are older than 60 will say this sounds normal. I've never once heard it used outside of seeing it in textbooks. 천만에요 means you're welcome. It's an old expression. So if you ask someone if they're like 60 years old, how does this sound? They're going to say, oh, it sounds very nice and polite. If you ask someone younger, they're going to say, oh, we don't say that. So there's a bunch of expressions like that. 처음 뵙겠습니다 is kind of going that direction. Another way of saying like nice to meet you. But you can still use it. It's just not really used commonly. It's another one where someone who I'd say is like maybe 50 or older might think it sounds very polite. It does sound very polite for nice to meet you. 처음 뵙겠습니다. Literally, like this must be the first time I'm seeing you is what it means. It's also not used. You would say like 반갑습니다 or 만나서 반갑습니다. Like nice to meet you that's much more common. 처음 뵙겠습니다 though does get taught a lot as well. So if I thought about this longer, I could probably come up with a lot more stuff like this, but there is a good amount of Korean that's not really used so much, but it's taught. Just because it's always been taught that way. So it's expected to kind of include that in your materials. But the biggest one I'd say is probably the let's form. And you'll see most sources teach it. I think what it is sources see other sources teach it, feel like, oh, I better teach that too, and then don't really think about it for long enough to realize, oh, wait, no one says that. So yeah, that's my answer to you, Keith. Hopefully that answers your question. By the way, this is a 1-800 number, so your card will automatically be charged about $5 to $10. They'll take care of that in sales. I don't even deal with that. Thank you for your question, Keith. Art Maxwell, thank you so much. Art Maxwell. I have to take another caller, Art, but let me read your message. Art Maxwell says, hey, Billy, love the channel and your beginner course on Korean. Nice. Thank you for all the amazing content. You really make learning fun and rewarding. Keep it up. Really appreciate that. Okay, I got it. I know I told you I'm back on the phones. I just did a call right now. I'm not taking a break. I'm going right back on the line. They really want me to take another call. So hold on. Let's see who else is on the line. Okay. Let's see. It looks like next we got Nastaria has been waiting on hold for a bit. Let me check out Nastaria's question. This one's a little longer. Let me check this one. Okay. All right, Nastaria, I think I can hear you. Can you hear me?
안녕하세요, Billy 선생님. My question is for Korean verbs that can have multiple different verbs within a similar topic, such as how 입다 means to put on clothes, and then there are specific verbs for putting on a hat or accessories or shoes. Is it always better to learn every single verb within that topic, or is there always a go-to Korean verb that we can always say and be understood?
Okay, good question, Nastaria. So what Nastaria asked is, so like, check out my notes here. So like sometimes when you learn a verb, right, you'll learn like this verb, there's like this, the example she gave was with 있다. Let's start there. Okay, 입다 means to wear, but it only means to wear something like over your whole body, typically like a shirt or pants like that. If you're talking about a hat, you could use 쓰다. If you're using like your shoes, it's 신다, or like socks. You have like 차다, you have like 끼다, you have like all these different words. So the question I believe you're asking is, do you need to learn like every variation of every single verb whenever there's like an example, something like that, where you have to learn multiple verbs? I'm trying to think of another common one where you have to learn lots of different verbs for things. To wear is probably the biggest one, but if you're translating from English to Korean, every word is going to have multiple versions. So I think this kind of applies there too. The answer to your question is yes, you actually have to learn. You actually have to learn every version, but there's some good news. Yes, you will learn you have to learn all the versions, but you don't need to have them all at the tip of your tongue ready to go, if that makes sense. So let's stick to your example of 입다 that you gave. So you're asking like, do you have to learn like to wear for all of these different parts and everything? Honestly, yes, because they are used. But do you have to really memorize and get them all ready to go? No. If you know the ones that you want to express on the tip of your tongue, if you have those ready to go, that's enough. So which ones would you normally say yourself? You would probably use 입다 for like shirts and pants. You'd probably use 쓰다 for like things on your face. So like hats or like masks or glasses and stuff like that. 입다, 쓰다, 신다 for shoes or things that go on your feet. That's probably going to be good for you. Are you going to need to say like, oh, I put on a backpack in regular conversations on a regular basis? Maybe not. You probably don't have to say it that much. You should have notes though of everything. You should have it somewhere in your head that you've learned it before, but ultimately it's not possible to memorize and have those all ready to go. No one does. Like, at least I don't. I learn like the basics. You start by learning the ones that you definitely need yourself, and the rest of them you're just going to learn through a lot of exposure. You're going to hear them used a lot. You're going to see someone else is going to like, pantomime putting on like a backpack and you're just, oh, like meda. Oh, I get that. Oh, okay. That must be that one. You're going to get it through context as well. It would be too much work. It's too stressful to try to learn them all at once and then force yourself to memorize those and master those because there are too many words. You're going to be learning like 20,000 words in Korean if you wanted to get to like native level. And even like, 5,000 words is really hard to learn as it is. And that's 5,000 words is going to be like pretty much most of what you're going to use, even if you're like almost at the fluent level. It's going to take a lot of time to learn those words and have them all ready to go. Don't stress about it. Learn them. Yes, you will need them, but no, you don't need to have them ready to go. If that kind of answers your question, hopefully kind of answers your question anyway. Thanks for your question, Nastaria. Yeah, I'll get back on the lines. Damn that guys. Thanks for your question, Nastaria. I should probably take another call. Glass artist. Wow. Dude, thank you so much. This is great. I didn't think that I'd be getting tips while I'm at work. I mean, I shouldn't I don't think the boss wants me taking tips, actually. They were talking about that with me last week, and they're saying I can't be taking tips from customers, but thank you so much, glass artist. No, not tips. I meant tri-tip. Yeah. You too. But thank you so much, glass artist. Let's read your message. 선생님 바빴어요. 바쁩니다. 바쁠 것입니다. 도와주셔서 감사합니다. I was busy. I am busy. I will be busy. Thank you for helping. Nice. You're always busy, glass artist, and you're always appreciated. Thank you, truly. Okay. So, I need to take another phone call. They're saying my times are really bad. So let's see who else do we got? Okay, someone else is calling. I have them on hold. Let's see. The next caller we have, it looks like it is Simona. Is there Simona watching? So I think Simona's calling. Let's listen to Simona. This is a longer call. So it's a longer call. So I'm going to have to listen extra carefully for this one. Okay, Simona, can you hear me?
안녕하세요, Billy-sen. I'm Simona from Italy. I've been studying Korean for 4 to 5 years now, and I wanted to ask what it means exactly for a grammar point to be considered advanced level. Because when I started studying Korean, I saw, okay, this is beginner level, this is intermediate, this is advanced. And I thought, okay, so beginner, intermediate is things that are used in everyday conversations, while advanced level is used
I know what she's talking about exactly.
Environments. But as I continued to study Korean, I realized that a lot of advanced level grammar points and vocabulary are actually used a lot in everyday conversations. So I've always been a bit confused about this. Plus, certain Korean tutors, I follow a variety of them. Maybe they consider certain grammar points to be, beginner level, while others consider the same grammar point as high beginner, maybe low intermediate. So that made me even more confused. So if you could answer, that would be amazing. Thanks again for everything that you do, and I hope you have...
Okay, I get exactly what you're saying. As soon as you started talking, I was like, I know what you're going to say. So really good question that I think everyone here will benefit from knowing the answer to. Before I tell you my answer though, what do you all think beginner, intermediate, and advanced level grammar or vocabulary, what do you think that means? What do you think beginning or advanced or intermediate level anything means? I want you to, I'm serious, I want you to think about this for like 10 seconds. I'll tell you in 10 seconds. I know, I'm on a call. Okay, why don't you write in the chat if you have any idea? Yes, Simona, thank you for your question. Okay, some people are saying, how easy is it to learn, a combination of that and how commonly it's used, how commonly it's used, how frequently it's used. Sure, that could be one way. Kai thinks the level of difficulty it is to grasp a word or concept. And so we have two camps. There are people who think it's like, how common is this form? Beginner is like everyday, intermediate is, less common, and advanced is something like rare. You're going to read it only in like manuscripts from like 100 years ago. And there are other people who are in the camp of beginner is something that's easy to learn. Intermediate's a little harder and advanced is a little harder to grasp. And then there are people who are like, well, it's kind of both, right? It's a combination. So if it's really common, but it's really hard to learn, then maybe it should be in the intermediate. If it's really not used and it's really hard to use, well, that's advanced. If it's really easy and really common, well, that's beginner, right? So all of you are correct, because there is no such thing as beginner, intermediate, and advanced level Korean. Every teacher, including myself, every resource, every book, every class, everything ever for not just Korean though, but every language is going to be making this up however they feel like it. So if you use one Korean resource, it will classify what I teach as a different level, and that's fine. You might see a topic in another course that's like ridiculously easy to use and ridiculously common, but it's classified as intermediate or advanced. I've seen, I'm not going to name sources, I've seen some sources, some books, where stuff that I would consider basic, daily used, be called advanced. There is no answer. There is no consensus, because these are just arbitrary terms. So you can call them whatever you want. My opinion, I shouldn't even say this isn't my opinion on what it should be. This is how I classify things. I just classify it based on how hard it is to learn. Because advanced stuff, even advanced stuff that seems like really hard to use and really advanced, like obviously you would think, oh, that's advanced, you need to know a lot of Korean to use that, can be extremely common. Like every day you'll hear stuff. Let me think of a really quick example. Trying to think of a really, really common example of advanced form that's super commonly. Okay. This is not that advanced. I would say this is maybe high intermediate. Uryonika. All of these uryo forms, uryo면, there are a bunch of these. They're shortened from 의료고 and then like 면, like if. So if you are 의료고, if you are trying to do something, if you're going to do something, 의료니까. So like I'm trying to do something and because of that, or I realized as a result of that, these are like kind of in the advanced level, or they're getting there because you have to understand the 의료고 form first. You have to understand the 니까 form as it means because, but you also have to understand the 니까 form as it means when you're reacting something, you're realizing something. So you hear something and you react to it, you realize something after doing something. So like, if you're trying to do something is what we might say. So like, hey, if you're going to do that is the feeling you get. The only reason I might classify something like this as advanced or intermediate and not beginner, even though it's very common, is because in order to use it, you have to understand a bunch of stuff in advance. You have to really understand multiple uses of a form in order to do it. Or let me give you another example. Honey. Honey is another form which has two uses. It can be used to show contrast. It can mean but, or it can also be used to say that something happened as a result of something that was surprising. Like we might say, and then, like, hey, look what happened. And then what happened was, or, and as a result, like you say something that follows from what happened before that's a little bit surprising, or it's like this, but, and you give something that's contrasting. So it has those two uses. And this I would never say is beginner, even though it's used all the time, because you have to already know how to say, but how to show contrast. And you also should already know how to say, and then something else happened. And then after you know those other forms, which are definitely beginner, then you can start to learn something like this, which might be intermediate at least. So that's how I classify it, is how hard it is to make. What stuff do you have to know in order to do it first? But there is no real answer. You could argue with me and say, but Billy, this is used commonly. Same with all the other forms. Like, another really common form is like 헐, 헐요. Like it's also really common. But it's when you're making a contradictory statement to something that someone says. You're like, no, actually, it's this. So this sort of thing, it's really basic, used all the time, but you have to know a bunch of other forms before you should bother learning this one. So you could argue and say, hey, but it's used all the time. It's beginner. I would say, sure. So as a long answer to your question, I'm still on the same call. Don't worry, I'll finish it up. As a long answer to your question, there is no answer. It's whatever you feel. So I think it's good if books list like why they classify things as different levels, but it really doesn't matter that much. The point is, though, as long as you know a form, you don't really need to care what level it's supposed to be. You can decide for yourself if this is something you want to use. Like if you see an advanced level form that's like it says it's used in like old text and religious speeches, well, you can safely ignore that, even if you're already a fluent speaker, probably, because you're not going to really need it. Kekko ni hada is another one. Kekko ni hada. This is another one that's definitely advanced because it requires understanding of several other forms first in order to even bother using this. And you would have to know both uses of ketta before, like to mean would, like it must be or it would be to make an assumption, and the future version. And you have to understand how to use like thinking already. You have to already know how to use both of the thinking forms, which would be like upper beginner, maybe lower intermediate level. So it's like you have to already be in the intermediate level to be able to even start this as far as difficulty of grammar forms is concerned. So I would classify it as advanced, but it's used fairly commonly. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And you'll know more as you get more exposure to general stuff. Like as you hear people use it, you'll know, oh, that's that advanced form. I hear it here. There's a lot of advanced stuff that's actually really common. Okay, I have to go to another phone call now. Thanks for your question. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go back and hold. Okay, yeah, hold on one second. Okay. Oh, hey, Kai. Kai asked a question really quick. Kai. Thank you, Kai. Kai asks a quick question. I know I'm going to go back in the call. I just gotta to do something on a spreadsheet real quick. Kai asks, is there a difference between that and A1 and 2? No. So you're talking about like the European language frame, CEFR, I believe it's called. European language no. Anyway, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the abbreviation for it. Where, yeah, CEFL, thank you. CEFL is also, so CEF or CEFL, it's one of those two. So it's supposed to be based on the types of topics that you can talk about. It's completely unrelated to anyone's scale of beginner, intermediate, advanced. I've never seen anyone tie their beginner, intermediate, advanced level qualifications for topics to that scale. They work on different terms because that's supposed to be based on what types of topics that the person can communicate in. And then it's arbitrary as to how well they can do it. It's just based on how the person grading them feels. Like, oh, they did a great job talking about this topic, but if you talk to them about a different topic, they might completely fail it. So it's all just arbitrary. It's just whatever the teacher feels like. So just know that if someone says they are advanced or intermediate or beginner, it means nothing. If you're learning a topic and it's a beginner or intermediate or advanced, it really doesn't mean anything. It just kind of means like, hey, be prepared that there might be more steps to doing this. It doesn't mean that it's not common. Hey, Lexica, thank you. Oh, wait, you already did. Again, Lexica. I was like, wait, Lexica already donated before. Lexica says, minute 7. I hope you'll do a Q&A for this Q&A format again. I'm kicking myself for not getting organized to send in a question. You could still send in a question. I'm still taking questions. If anyone wants to submit their question to my email, just let me know if you send it, so I'll check my email. Okay, I really got to go into another call. My boss is kicking me. He says I'm taking too long on each of these calls. All right, so let's take the next call. Hold on, let's see who's waiting right now. Who's on hold? We got a based Catholic. That's their name. I don't know if they're actually religious or not, but yeah, based Catholic sent in another question. So let's give their question a listen. It's pretty short. All right, based Catholic, can you hear me? Go ahead.
한국어 발음과 억양을 어떻게 개선할 수 있을까요? 아직 제 발음이 잘 안 되는 것 같아서.
Okay, that was pretty cool. You did a question in Korean. I'm gonna play it one more time so that people can listen to it. If you want to see if you can understand it in Korean. If not, I'll explain it to you after. So one more time, let's listen to that question from Base Catholic.
한국어 발음과 억양을 어떻게 개선할 수 있을까요? 아직 제 발음이 잘 안 되는 것 같아서.
Okay, so if I get your question correctly, you're asking basically, how can someone improve their overall pronunciation and their intonation, right? So, sorry, sir, could you repeat that? Oh, it's Fisho. Hey. Yeah, so improving your pronunciation and intonation are actually both going to come at the same time. They're both kind of connected. In other languages, I know like Japanese, some people will push like, oh, you have to focus on your pitch accent or all these different things like that. In Korean, you don't really have to worry about anything like that. If you get good at pronunciation, your intonation is going to be mostly okay as well. I'm talking about like your pronunciation of actual sentences and words, not just syllables. To get better at pronunciation and intonation, you need to do what's known as shadowing. You don't have to do it directly. Now, for those of you who don't know, shadowing is basically you listen to something, you listen to someone speak Korean in a way that you yourself could imagine yourself speaking Korean. So, for example, you watch your favorite celebrity on a talk show and you watch all their videos and you can kind of hear their voice in your head when you're sleeping. Like you get really familiar with the way that they talk. And when they say something, you might pause a video or, just practice out loud reading the subtitles while they're talking or listening to what they said and kind of repeating it in your head. You do shadowing, whether you're doing it consciously or not. When you listen to someone talk, you're kind of getting a sense of how they talk. So that's shadowing, but you can also do it directly, whereas you pretty much pause the video and you play it and you try to copy them, play it again, try to copy as closely as you can to the person. You don't really have to do it that way. I didn't do it that way, but that is also like a straightforward way of doing shadowing if you just want to directly do it. You need to get more shadowing in order to get better pronunciation, intonation. There's no way around it. You're never going to get good intonation and pronunciation just by talking with yourself because there's no one there to correct you and tell you which words you're saying correctly and incorrectly. You need to do it by listening to other people. So if you are someone who is able to kind of speak Korean now, and you're feeling like, oh, my pronunciation, my intonation still isn't really, it just sounds weird. I don't want it like where it is. I need it to get better. It means you haven't been doing very much listening practice. And if you have been doing listening practice, you haven't been doing any active listening, which is focusing on what the person's saying. So you really need to be doing a lot more of that. That's what I would say. Either that, or if it's still not working for you, some things like it's hard to focus for whatever reason, then just try shadowing. Play a clip of someone you want to sound like, play it over and over and over and over and try to copy exactly how that person says it. But there are some tips for intonation, which I might make a video of in the future, but there isn't really like solid rules for it. You're just going to learn it by hearing it. Okay. Let me just read the questions really quick. Yeah, my whole time is terrible, but they know that. They can't fire me though, because my face is on the channel, but they sure do talk smack about me in the break room. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you, George. Anyway, so let me just make sure I'm not skipping any other messages. Sunny Southpaw says, guys and girls do talk different in Korean. Yes, that is true. Now, that's not a problem. If you want to sound like someone who's a different gender from you, go ahead. I mean, we're in 2025, right, guys? But just know that. Be aware of that. So if you're trying to talk like someone, like even for me, if I was trying to find a guy to sound like, and I find someone who's like really loud and really like high-pitched voice or really deep voice or whatever, that might be kind of hard to copy as well. So try to find someone that you really want to sound like. Ultimately, listen to as much of them speak as you can until you can kind of subconsciously hear their voice and try to copy things that they're saying, and that'll help you as well. That is shadowing. Okay, so I got to take another phone call here. Let's see who's waiting on the other line. I got another phone call. This one is from a certain Cosma. Okay, hold on. I got to take this. It's going to keep ringing until I pick it up. All right, Cosma. Cosma, can you hear me?
Hi, Billy. I'm Cosma, and I was talking with a Korean when I said the word jingle, jingle. He told me that I pronounced ing wrong, so it seems that I have some trouble pronouncing ing patchim plus ing in the next syllable. So for example, the word Chong-u sounds like Chon-ku. Any tips or hints on how to get this sound?
Good question, Cosma. Okay, so Cosma is asking about this letter, which is actually the word for the letter is ing. Funnily, every letter except for a few are made by taking this and putting the letter here. I'll just write L for letter like that. And there's the name of the letter. You take the letter with E sound and the letter with and then the letter. So ing, like that. Anyway, this letter, which is the consonant ing, sorry, I should have said consonants. This doesn't apply for vowels. Vowels are just that, whatever the vowel is, for the name of the vowel. Or whatever the vowel is. So or or o, you just stick the empty consonant before. Okay, so this one's the ing, which makes basically an ng sound. You probably are not doing this. This is where it's lacking, is There, it takes a little bit extra time. It's slower to say. So let me try to think of an example. I guess the example you're giving was like 정구 and 전구. I'm not sure if these were the ones you were saying here. 정구, 전구. They sound similar. 전구, 정구. The only difference is that stressed sound. This has that extra stressed NG sound, the G sound at the bottom, that you don't get here. 전구, 정구, 정구, 정. So that's the key to it. It should take more stress. It should be harder to say. Let me think if there's another word that I can give you as an example to help with this. So you can already say this one, han, han, han. Notice when you say the neun, your tongue goes out. You can see your tongue when you say the Neun letter. Han, han, han. Even if you say it softly, han, han. The tongue is still kind of visible because it goes behind the teeth. Hung, hung. You do not see tongue. Whereas this one here, I'm going to draw the teeth. These are the upper teeth. These are the lower teeth. The tongue is like here. So it can be right behind the teeth so that you only see a little bit, or it can stick out between the teeth when you say this one, han, han. So right now I'm doing it exaggerated. I'm pushing it out. Han. You can see it, but I could also do it without pushing it out. Han. But you still see it. It still goes to the front of the mouth, right? Hung, hung. It does not go to the front of the mouth. Hung, han. It's not hung. It's not hung. It's hung. So I think that's the biggest difference, is that you don't even push the tongue in that direction. It doesn't go to the end and then go back. It just stays in the back to begin with. So if you want to practice it for yourself, I guess a simple word would be like hangari. Hangari is like one of those clay pots. I'm sorry, I don't mean to show you the inside of my mouth, but it's for research. It's for learning purposes. Hang. Hang. My tongue is nowhere near my teeth. If I was saying han ari, if I was trying to do it, this is wrong, just prefacing that. This is wrong. Hang, it sounds wrong. It sounds weird, but it's like almost right. But you could tell I'm doing it wrong because my tongue is going toward the front of my teeth. So yeah, that's the biggest difference. I would just say, keep an eye out on that. If you felt your tongue go toward the front, if it touched your teeth at all, you just said it wrong. I'll say that again. If your tongue touched your teeth, you said it wrong. It's not this letter. You said this letter. Oh, hey, Evolving Brain. Thank you so much. Evolving Brain. Let me write your tip. Try tip, I said again. This is getting really hungry, aren't you? Thank you so much for your tip, Evolving Brain. And let me read your message in a second. You say there are some academic papers cover the repeated alternating between high and low pitches in Korean intonation of phrases and final syllable lengthening. Have you observed it too? What is your summary of this? I did actually create a FAQ video. Are you talking about pitches in dialects, or are you talking about pitches specifically in a certain word? If you're talking about pitches at the beginning of words, okay, dialects would be a separate thing. There are pitches in dialects still. So specifically, Gyeongsang dialect is one of the most common ones. You'll hear it, where words can have a little bit different pitch and mean different things. I'm not super familiar with it because I haven't lived there forever. But I did do a video where I did if you want to learn about that, watch my Busan dialect video that I did with Korean Ara. It's on YouTube. For Seoul dialect, so standard Korean is what you'd most be familiar with. That one also has certain words. Now they don't have all like the pitches that you would hear in Chinese, like up and down, down, up, all these. They don't have these, but there are certain words where you would see a downward pitch, and it is also dialect specific. It's not all over Korean. It's just specifically for Seoul dialect. And I did, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about it again here. If you go to my Korean FAQ video and you search pitch, I do a video about this, or maybe it's my intonation video. Yeah, search intonation. I think it was like how to do Korean intonation. And I talk about when and why this happens. You don't have to do it though. It's optional, but it is something in Seoul dialect, which is going to be what you're going to hear a lot. So you can hear like pang and bang. And there's a little bit of a pitch. And it's a specific to Seoul feature. Unless you're talking about a different paper, let me know. I can try to answer that. Okay, let me just scroll down and read. Oh, Kai says, hold on. Or Nastaria said, hold on. Did I miss something? Let me check here. I should probably have my mail open anyway in case someone wants to send a call. Oh, hey. Hold on. Nastaria, thank you. Nastaria just sent me a donation on straight to my PayPal. And Nastaria says, quarter of the hour secret tip for the awesome hotline advice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. And then Evolving Brain says, you should check out the links above. I don't see the link. Can you send them to me on Discord? I can check them out. I haven't gotten to read if there's something specific you're talking about. I just assume you're talking about that because I'm aware of studies that have been done on that. Fisher says, I cringed when you showed my voice in stream. Not going to lie. Yeah, that's fine. David asks, I heard there's a difference between North and South Korean accents. Yes, this would be a really big topic. I have a video, if you search my channel for North Korean, I did a video all about this back in 2018. And I talk about pretty much the most basic differences, but it's kind of difficult to classify North versus South because North has dialects as well. So I did the video comparing the standard dialect in North Korean with standard dialect in South Korean. And that's not going to be what most people in North Korean speak. It's just going to be what you're usually going to hear on the news. So very standard North Korean. But yeah, check out that video for like a bunch of general advice about that. Okay. I have to do another phone call. I have to take another call. Let me check who else is waiting here in the hold. Okay, we have another person waiting on hold. It looks like Enormosaurus has been waiting on hold quite a bit. Let me just check here. Hold on. Okay, let me get to Enormosaurus's call. Okay, Enormosaurus, can you hear me?
안녕하세요, 선생님. Enormosaurus입니다. 사실 제 이름은 콜린입니다.
Okay.
반갑습니다. 질문이 있어요. 한국어를 배우려면 한국어 이야기를 독서가 필요해요. 저는 읽을 수 있지만 진짜 힘들이랑 피곤해요.
Let me listen to that one more time. All right.
안녕하세요, 선생님. Enormosaurus입니다. 사실 제 이름은 콜린입니다. 반갑습니다. 질문이 있어요. 한국어를 배우려면 한국어 이야기를 독서가 필요해요. 저는 읽을 수 있지만 진짜 힘들이랑 피곤해요.
Okay, that's a really good question from Enormosaurus. So basically, if we summarize this, do you need to read books in order to learn Korean? Really quick, the short answer is no. The long answer is also no, but I'll give you the long answer anyway. So the short answer is no. I barely read any books. I'm not bragging. This isn't good, right? You shouldn't be like, I don't read books. I don't read like storybooks, okay? I do lots of reading. I don't read storybooks. So if it kind of seems like your question is asking, do you need to be like reading books and reading a bunch of stuff like stories? Do I need to buy the Harry Potter collection in Korean and read that in order to speak Korean? The answer is no. Because you are going to be reading plenty of Korean through lessons, through online articles, through your friends' messages that they send you on chat, through watching videos and reading subtitles. You do not need to go out of your way to do a specific type of Korean media in order to learn Korean. So if we expand this answer that I'm giving you, you do not need to watch Korean dramas to learn Korean. You do not need to watch Korean variety shows to learn Korean. You do not need to read novels to learn Korean. You don't need to read poems. You pick what you are interested in. If you are someone who likes reading like fantasy books or science books or poetry or newspaper articles or something specifically, then read that, because you're going to have a more fun time learning Korean doing something that you enjoy. If you're someone who doesn't really like doing that, say, like for me, not really into poetry much. I'm not really too much into fiction books. Oh, there are some that I like, but I haven't really found any that I've been recommended that are in Korean that I've been interested in reading. So not really, but I find plenty of other things to read. So I'll read messages from my friends every day. I'll read tons and tons of Korean content when I prepare for my lessons. Like I'll read, a bunch of my books here. Like one of my favorite books is a grammar reference guide it's all in Korean, made for teachers like myself. It's very, very technical. There are lots of words in here you will never use. Let me try. One of the fun ones, the first one I learned here when I got this book was 선행절 and 후행절. I can't even say it, but now, okay. That would be like the preceding clause and the clause that comes after the form. And these, random words are used when you're explaining grammar forms. It'll say like, using the preceding clause as a basis or a reason for the subsequent clause, this form acts as, like that sort of language. You're never going to need that in regular Korean, but I learn it here because you have to learn it for reading the book. So when I read the book, I don't have to like use a dictionary. I can just kind of enjoy it because I've done lots of this reading. But on the other hand, I don't really ever pick up like fiction books. I have some right here in my library. I haven't really read them. I've only read like maybe a couple. So no, you want to pick something that you're interested in. And I mean, with how many people like start learning Korean, realize it's really hard and then give up, it's best to find stuff that you enjoy. So please don't force yourself to do something that you're not going to enjoy. There are plenty of other options you can find. So hopefully that kind of answers your question a bit. Yeah, no, you don't have to do reading if you don't want to for Korean. You can find other ways to practice your reading other than reading books. Okay. Oh, I got a, hold on. I got a message from Base Catholic who asks, Billy, how is my pronunciation? Oh, it's fine. I could understand you completely, so don't worry about it. If I couldn't understand you, I would have sent you a reply back on your email and said, could you just write out what you said? I'm sorry. But no, I can understand you fine. Maybe later I can do a different stream where I like grade people's pronunciation and give pointers live, but yeah, not for today. Okay. I do have another call waiting on hold. So let me see if I can get to that one next. Let's see. Who is this? Oh, we have another call from Keith, it looks like. So let's listen to Keith's call here.
Obviously, it's going to take time to get used to speaking in Korean, especially for those that don't live there or visit. What should we focus on as far as grammar, vocabulary, politeness?
Keith, interesting question. I'm going to think about that for a second. Oh, Flo Purdy. Let me just take a look at this tri-tip from Flo Purdy. Thank you so much, Flo. Can we even see it? Yeah. I'm just like getting toward the bottom of the board. Thank you, Flo. And you write, bottom of the hour, tri-tip, and a reminder to renew your car insurance. I already did. I think I paid $1,000. Like I do that every January. So yes, it's I don't even have like I drive like a Toyota. Like I have a little, like a small 4-door sedan. I don't know why it's so expensive. Okay. But I'll make sure to keep renewing that. It's still important. Scoop. Thank you for the $5 donation, Scoop. And you write, hey, Billy, I feel like I've lost motivation as I have somewhat plateaued. How can I find drive to study again? What do I do as an intermediate? Okay, Scoop, I want to answer your question, but I first want to get on to Keith's question. I'm still having him waiting. He's waiting on hold right now. Okay, I'm going to answer your question, Scoop, as soon as I finish Keith. So Keith asks, what should I focus on for speaking? You mentioned grammar. Should I focus on grammar for speaking? Should I focus on vocabulary? Should I focus on politeness level? And the answer is, if I have to pick one thing to focus on for speaking, I would say it's probably going to be grammar for you actually making the sentences. So this isn't about focusing on for listening. This is focusing on for you to be able to make sentences. You should be focusing on grammar. Understanding is a little bit different, but for making sentences, you cannot make the simplest sentences without at least basic grammar. So I would say focus on grammar if you have to pick one of those. But if you're talking about speaking at a higher level, all of those and a million things more, which are only going to come through having lots of practice, speaking it yourself and hearing it a lot. So there isn't really one thing you should just focus on in order to speak it at a higher level. But in the beginning, in the early stages, don't worry so much about vocabulary, because even if you learn, like I make this comparison sometimes. If I were to give a beginner, someone who's only learned the alphabet and a few basics, I give them a Korean dictionary, the unabridged Korean dictionary. It doesn't have sentences in it, but it does have every single word in Korean. And I say, you are going to stay here for a month. And all you have to do in this room, you get food, you get water, you listen to music, you have a month to generate one sentence in Korean. One sentence. Do you think they could do it? I can tell you, no, they could not do it. Because you have to know so many things to put together a sentence. Just knowing the words is meaningless. So that's kind of why I say don't worry too much about vocabulary as a beginner. I mean, yeah, you do need to know vocabulary, but it shouldn't be the most important thing on your mind. You should be focused more on getting lots of listening practice and trying to use what you're learning. You know, learn a couple grammar forms, try to use it right away, learn a few words, try to use them, but don't like focus on one thing early on. Don't just say, okay, I'm going to do tons and tons of grammar and I'm going to ignore all the vocab. That's not the way to go. Neither is just saying I'm going to study 100 words a day and not learn any grammar. Or, oh, I'm just going to listen to like 100 sentences and not do anything else. Like, don't pinpoint one thing in the beginning. You need a good solid foundation for that. So that's my answer for you. Hopefully that helps. And then Scoop also asked, how can I find motivation to study Korean again? So this is a really deep question, Scoop. What was the first thing that got you into Korean? Why are you studying Korean right now? I guess let's not think so much about that you've lost the motivation, but like, why are you even learning it? Like, for what purpose did you even want to start? Why are you learning Korean? I guess let's look at it that way. And everyone, this will be a different answer. You know, if you're really like honest with yourself, a lot of people, this is just going to be like K-pop, and that's fine. But like, really ask yourself, why am I learning Korean in the first place? Do something related to what it is that you want to do. There is no purpose in life for speaking a foreign language that you're never going to use. This is honestly why I've never gone back and learned French, because I'm sure I will someday when I get to go to France. I'd love to go there someday. When I do, I'm going to learn some French again. I'm going to review it all before I go there. But like, why would I want to learn a language that I never, ever, 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 ever get to practically use? Except maybe once. Actually, the funny thing is I did get to use my French in a real situation, like where I actually had to once. If I don't count there was like a Quebec bakery I used to go to sometimes, where I would try to practice French with the worker. Where I actually should use French was a tourist that I met when I was in Japan one year who didn't speak Japanese, and they were trying to speak French, and I think I helped them out with a couple words in French. You should be learning something that you're going to be using. So why are you learning Korean? What things do you like in Korean? What things do you like in your regular life? What are things that genuinely make you happy, that you want to spend your time doing? Do those things in Korean. You're not really going to get back, like motivation. Your motivation is always going to be pushed down by the difficulty of learning the language. That's just a fact. So you need to make sure that you're always pushing back with something that you want to. You want to be pushing back with this goal, this desire that you have, this thing you enjoy doing. So that, watching, I really, really, really love K-pop. That's how I got into it. But I actually just found that I just really enjoy the culture. I like the people I've met. Great. Start there. Friends, get some Korean friends. Plan to go to a K-pop concert. In the meantime, Listen to your live streams from the K-pop person that you like. Listen to them. Listen to their YouTube channel if they have it. Listen to their friends talking. Listen to things that they enjoy listening to. Like kind of put yourself in the headspace of, I'm already doing the thing that I want to be eventually doing without subtitles, but I'm doing it right now. And keep learning Korean along the way. But yeah, I mean, Korean's not going to get easy. It's not going to get like crazy hard, but it's not really going to get easier. So you always need to have something kind of keeping you going that you're able to do along the way. I think it would be really hard just to say, oh, I really want to go to Korea 2 years from now and speak fluently, and then have that somehow hold you up through everything to get there. That's going to be really hard. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Kai says donation made via PayPal. Oh, yeah, I do see this. Let's see, what is this? Kai! Thank you, Kai. Kai just sent me a donation. I mean, some tri-tip. Let me see what Kai wrote. Thanks for everything as usual. Also, this new kind of stream is so cool. Hope you do more like this in the future. Thanks. I probably will, whether I like it or not. I'm supposed to be doing like 20 hours a week at least, but you know, it's hard with this. It's hard with the boss over there, always over my shoulder. Thank you so much, Kai. Okay, I do have another call. Hold on. Let me just 1 second. If anyone else would like to send in their call, I am accepting calls. I will screen them before I play them live. But yeah, you're more than welcome to call in for today's Korean advice hotline. There's only about 20 minutes left before we have to shut down for today. But yes, that number is billy@gobillykorean.com. That is billy@gobillykorean.com. Call now. Okay, so we do have another caller. Let's see, I do have another caller. This looks like someone new. Never gotten this person's call before. Their name is Keith. Keith, again, for the third time today. I swear, some customers just keep calling. So Keith, it's so lovely to get your phone call again. Let me just see if I can patch you through here. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Oh, I pushed the wrong button on my phone. Here we go. Okay. Keith, what message do you have for us?
Do you have any trips for solo travel in Korea? Any hotspots or can't miss?
Okay, Keith, you ask. Keith says I didn't have to use them all. Yes, I do, because I don't have any more. Keith asks a decent question that's different than the other ones we've gotten, and you're just asking any tips or hotspots for solo travel in Korea. Gosh, there are so many places you could go. My favorite place in Korea, no joke, I go every year, is actually not in Seoul. I like Suwon Fortress, okay? It's maybe I'm biased because my wife's parents live in Suwon, and her grandmother actually lived immediately in front of the fortress. Like you could literally, the fortress was the front yard. And then they just recently moved though, but every time we visit them, it's like you walk out the door and you're literally at Suwon Fortress. Like it was pretty cool. But I like this because it's not that far out of the way. So there are some cooler places in Korea. There are like some old, Buddhist temples that you can visit. There's, if you want to go to like see caves and mountains and all this cool, beauty of Korea, stuff like that. I feel like this is kind of a really good balance between a bit of nature and a bit of like classic Korean architecture. It's basically like a castle wall built around a portion of Suwon, which is a city that's kind of about an hour southish of Seoul. And it was used as actually like a fortress. And the cool thing about this is, maybe most people wouldn't really know this, but pretty much everything you see in Korea is a reconstruction. There's like nothing left for the most part. There are some, but for most part, everything in Korea you see, like buildings, statues. They're just reconstructions, with the exception of stuff like you might see in a museum. But that's because Korea's been destroyed a lot by other countries, Japan, but also China, specifically Mongolia. There's been through a lot of history, so there's not too much that's remaining. But Suwon Hwasong is kind of a unique exception to that, because when they built it, they kept all of the blueprints. They kept literally everything, like all the records, like how much they paid their workers. So when they reconstructed this, they did it exactly to plan, which is the cool thing. You can see what it used to look like. And they frequently will do like a new reconstruction on it. Like they'll rebuild parts and that are broken down, and they'll fix it up. But when they fix it up, it's always back to how it was. It's not like they're going to put, a bunch of like metal scaffolding, put signs and plaques all over it, and like use new construction methods. Like, no, the workers will work on it for a long time and make it look just like it did. So it's a way to see like old history that's in really good condition. And if you walk around the whole thing, it's about a 2-hour long walk, maybe like an hour jog or something. And it's just you can just take a nice walk around that area of Suwon. It's a nice area of Suwon. It's kind of quiet. You get some of that old vibe, and I really like it. So I've been there more times than I can count. I've done live streams from there more times than I can count. There's lots of stuff to see along the way. It's not just a fortress wall and you walk around and you're at the end. It's not like a mini Great Wall of China or something like that. There are stops along the way, like guard posts and buildings and whole other sections. Like there's a palace along the way. Like there's all the stuff that you're going to see. So every part of it is like different. And then the fortress walls just kind of connect all of these cool things together. So yeah, I really like it. I really recommend it. You can go there. It's free. There's like a car tour, like a little train tour that goes around every hour if you want to pay for that. But really, you don't need to unless you don't want to walk. It's really cool. Okay. Keith says, thanks for breaking the mold. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate your questions. And also really quick, if you're wondering, where's the best place to stay? The answer is Seoul. I'm sorry. Just stay in Seoul. Especially if it's your first time in Korea. If you've been to Korea a lot, then, you can check out Busan, Daegu, Daejeon, Jeju, all these other cool cities, Gangneung. But if you've never been to Korea before, or if you've only been like once before, I would say just stay in Seoul, stay somewhere in the center. And you can visit Suwon really easily by bus. 5107번. I actually remember the numbers better in Korean than in English. So 5107, the 5107 bus will go directly to Suwon from Seoul. And if you're in Gangnam, specific, like a different part of Seoul, the 5100 bus will go there, I believe. And then when you're in Suwon, it's about a 30-minute bus ride to get there. But once you're there, it's all walkable. Like you don't really need to worry about like, oh, I have to get at this stop and here. No, you just get off really much anywhere you see it, and you can walk starting from there. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Check it out. And you're likely to see me there because I do go there a lot. Okay. That is our last question. Let me see. Let me just put on the hold screen for a second. Let me see if there's anyone else. I don't know why the hold music was still playing that whole time. Any last minute questions? Feel free to send in your audio files. We'll end the stream in just less than 15 minutes. Last callers. Simon said he sent an email. Really? Oh, I did get an email, but I didn't get an audio file. But let's see what Simon says. Within the last month, I found your channel and have been deep diving into your beginner course. I'm somewhere around video number 22, okay? Oh, that is sour. I've been a bit frustrated. I don't have any way to practice aloud. So I wondered if Duolingo would be a good supplement for listening. I've never used it. So I'm not sure if it's good for listening. I know that many people say it's not a good idea due to the romanization. If it has romanization, you want to avoid romanization. If it has an option without romanization, use that. However, if you've already learned the pronunciation from your videos, do you think Duolingo can be a good supplement? Like I said, I haven't. This over here. I haven't used it before, so I can't speak if it's good. I would just say don't use any resource that doesn't offer the alphabet. So if it has romanization next to that, it's fine. Just ignore it. But don't use romanization for Korean, and that applies to every level, whether you're a brand new beginner or you've already been learning for a while. Just avoid romanization. It's gonna mess up your pronunciation. So as long as it has the letters, it should be fine. Okay, we don't have any other phone calls coming in, so I think I'm just gonna take a break. So let me just see if I can go over here to the break room we have. Okay. Okay, let me get away from all that office noise. And yeah, now we're in the break room. So feel free if you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. We can maybe do this again in another month or so. I don't know. We'll have to see if the boss doesn't keep calling me in here to do more work. Thomas says, Duolingo is a game, not much of a language learning app, but it can be good for motivation. It's what I've been lacking. I go from studying Korean to not studying Korean at all for months, so I need more dedication. Scoop says, I used Pimsleur, which got me started. Yeah, so I'm away from the calls. I don't want to take any more calls for today. I mean, if someone calls in, I'll take your call, but I don't want to do any extra calls for my boss. Let's see. Oh, hold on. My boss just told me that there's a caller on hold. Hold on. Okay, I'm not able to, I was going to preview it on my phone, but my phone doesn't have a program to play the audio file, so I think I'm just going to play it live. Hopefully you can hear. Okay, I'm just going to play this live. Okay, okay, go ahead. I think we can hear you. Let me just open up the call here 1 second. I'm just listening. listen to it really quick. Okay, I think I might be able to play it for you. Give me let's see if this works.
Hello. My question is, does there come a point when you're learning Korean that you actually sound better and can hear it for yourself? Or will you always hear your native accent? I know that Korean culture typically praises foreigners for trying to learn the language, so it may be hard to get a gauge.
Really good question. Okay, yes. Yeah, I had to pause it to play it on my computer because I wasn't able to preview it on my phone like I was trying to do first. Okay, so your question is basically, is there ever going to be a time where you actually hear yourself sound like fluent, like native level, or is it always going to be like your own voice, right? Kai's like, oh my God, my voice. Yes. So when I hear my own voice speaking Korean, I hear a separate person. I don't hear because I don't use the same like inflection on my voice, and I don't have the same intonation. I don't even say the same things. In fact, I also don't think all the same things. Also, I'll be making a video about this as well, hopefully when I'm in Korea this time. But you get a different personality when you speak in a foreign language, and anyone who's bilingual will tell you that you have kind of a different person. I mean, it's you, but it's like, have you seen Severance? No, it's like, it's you, but it's like a different version of you. Some different thoughts, some different behaviors, and different way you speak. So no, I don't hear myself. It's not just, I guess it would be hard, if this helps, it would be hard for me to say Korean in my own voice at this point. The closest I can get is when I'm teaching live streams and I read example sentences. That's the closest I can get to my regular English speaking voice. Because when I'm saying those sentences, I'm trying to say them as clearly and slowly as possible. I'm not saying them in my Korean persona. Like, I'm not saying them how I would normally speak Korean, because I'd have to switch my brain to that. It would be hard to go back and forth a bunch of times. So yes, when you start speaking Korean and having full conversations, you'll start to develop. As soon as you start having conversations, you're slowly developing like a second version of yourself that speaks Korean. And you won't hear yourself speaking as much. It'll kind of just sound like, oh, that's me when I speak Korean, and oh, this is me when I speak English. If you want it to be at the point where you think you hear your own speaking and you sound like a native Korean, that would take a lot of practice and a lot of shadowing, specifically a lot of that sort of shadowing. But yeah, it's totally possible. There are levels to fluency, and there are people who are completely fluent but didn't really bother with trying to improve their pronunciation, and you can tell right away that they're not a Korean speaker. And there are other people who've really focused on that, and if you listen to them, you close your eyes and listen to them, you're like, oh, it just sounds like a Korean person. So that's kind of up to you. How much shadowing do you want to do? How much do you want to improve it? But yes, there will come a day with enough listening practice, enough speaking practice, and enough shadowing that you will be able to get to that level. Could you hear the success in my voice? Kai asks Mike. Yes. Yeah, I get to hear Kai's voice for the first time. John says, I speak 4 languages and I understand you. Yeah, like, I mean, I don't have enough languages that I speak where I can feel that. I did get Japanese on a good day. I was like intermediate level. I could have basic conversations. But even that level, I could start to feel like, oh, I'm kind of a different person when I'm speaking in Japanese. And in Korean, definitely. Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm like a different version of myself when I'm talking with my friends in Korean, when I'm speaking Korean, versus when I'm in English. Like the things I can joke about, the way that I talk, you can't convert that directly into Korean. You can do it a different way. You can still be, funny. You can still be goofy, but it's in a different way. Anyway, really good question. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the break room. Oh, I was just going to go back. I was just walking back to the break room, and then the boss called me out and said, Billy, we got another phone call waiting. You got to be kidding me. I'll get it. No, I'll get it. No problem. Hold on. I got to get another phone call.
Hey Billy, I want to say thank you so much for
Okay, we got a phone call from someone who calls himself Mason. Just gave a phone call. I was just about to go home. Don't you just love that you get the last phone call, like right when you're getting your keys and you get out of your desk and you're going to shut down the computer and you get a phone call from Mason. I'm just, just joking, bro. Okay, so let's listen to Mason's phone call here.
Hey Billy, I want to say thank you so much for your channel. I've been following it for, I think, almost 3 years now. I didn't really start studying Korean until about 2 years ago, and then I went to Korea like literally like 2 months after I started studying, and so I was kind of just thrown straight into everything. And I lived there for about 2 years, and now I'm back from Korea, and I'm trying to figure out how I can continue to study without having that same sort of like ability to communicate every single day in Korean like I was before. Like I call some of my Korean friends every now and then, but I've never studied Korean while not inside Korea, so I don't really remember how. I don't know how to do it really. So, do you have any advice for me in this situation?
Okay, good question, Mason. So your situation is going to be a little more unique because you're someone who already went over and lived in Korea and I'm assuming learned some Korean, but now you're back at home and you're thinking like, well, how can I maintain or how can I continue to improve Korean when I'm no longer in that environment where I was being exposed to Korea like every single day, right? I mean, this could include the regular advice, like, you know, you got to watch Korean shows, make sure you're doing as much immersion as you can. It's really going to come down to, though, because you're kind of coming off of like a really big high for like you've had so many experiences with like talking with people there and hanging out there and having fun and everything. And now you're like, well, what do I do? How do I keep up what I was doing? Like just turning on the TV and watching Korean is not going to give you that same amount of exposure that you were getting living in Korea, right? It's going to come down to friends. You're going to need to make a lot of friends in Korean. So I'm not just going to say watch more Korean TV shows, watch more Korean YouTubers. While that's helpful, in your position, I feel like if you were to just do what's would be really helpful to someone else, in your situation, it would be less helpful. You'd feel your language going down a bit. You really need to have a bunch of Korean friends to have opportunities to keep using the Korean that you were already using a lot. So online friends are just as good as real friends. They are real friends. If you have online friends, you have friends. And you can make online friends anywhere. I've recommended apps before. There are websites. It doesn't really matter. I mean, use whatever you can use to find friends. That it really is not important. You need to find people though that you can speak with. It doesn't have to be in person. If you're not living next to like a city that has a Koreatown, like if you're in LA, you have Koreatown. There are plenty of stuff you can do here if you want. New York and big cities like that will have some sort of Korean community. But outside of that, online friends are fine. Make online friends. Talk with them as much as you can. If they're not messaging you very much, find more online friends. Have so many online friends that message you rarely, that it becomes the same as if you had a few really close friends that are messaging you all the time. So that's the best advice I think I can give you, is just get lots more friends to do more practicing. Okay, we have another caller though, actually, right while Mason was calling. Let me see here. Leia asked a follow-up question. Do you think you speak differently and created different personas because of cultural differences? Partially, yeah, but it's not just cultural differences. It's really the way that people speak is different. Like it, I want to give you a concrete example, because I could just say, well, they speak differently, but there are some really simple examples. If you're familiar with the 가요 form, the ending, like the verb ending, like 갈까요? 할까요? 그럼 점심 같이 먹으러 갈까요? Should we go eat lunch together? So this is like the should we or should I form, right? Right? That's what it means, right? Yeah. It's a suggestion. You're suggesting how about, like something 어떨까? It's like 어떻다 is like to be how. So this, how would it be if we were to do this? It is the shall we, should we, suggesting form. But that's not how it's used. It actually is, but that's not what it's used for. It's actually used for asking someone if they want to. But it's not directly like, is this what you want? Like, I'm trying to clarify what you're saying you want is. That's not what this form is for. There are other forms for that. This is asking, it's basically what we would say in English. Hey, like, want to do this? Want to do this? Like, we use the want to form when they would use the shall we, should we form. And this is still the shall we, should we form. But it's also the one, like when you ask someone, 갈까요? It doesn't really mean should we go or shall we go? It's like, all right, want to go? It has that feeling. All right, so we're going to go. It has like it's a suggestion, but it's like a friendly, normal suggestion. So this is just one example. There are tons of these, like it's used in a different way. So yeah, it's not only cultural differences that you speak a different way. It's just the language is different itself. There's no relation between Korean and English, so everything's a little bit different. Okay, we do have another caller I just got. This caller, they say their name is Purple. Let me listen to their call really quick. Okay, we got a question in from Purple, who says they say that's SP in the chat. They say, that's me, I'm shy. Okay, Purple has a question, so let's listen to their question.
Hi Billy, I'm a beginner at Korean. I'm at an A2 level approximately, but when it comes to practically using Korean and making my own sentences, I'm struggling. I can make simple sentences, but I'm struggling with complex sentences where you have adverbs and adjectives and connecting different thoughts. And I know that you had a video a long time back where you just showed the basic organization of where to put things, time, place, subject, object, verb, adjective, etc. But is it possible for you to have a live session where we can build more complex sentences? That would be really helpful.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking. So short sentences are short. Easy sentences are easy is what you're saying. And long sentences are hard. Hard sentences are hard. Complex sentences are complex, right? Yes. So two things. The first thing I want to say is that I'm actually working on my course right now, and it has been killing me because of how much work it's been. It is the biggest course I've ever released. It's also going to be free. It's the biggest course I've ever released since starting this channel. And it's going to be 20 episodes with like every single sentence connector in Korean, from all the way from the beginning level all the way up to the advanced level. So it's for everyone. And everything will be marked. Again, that beginner, intermediate, advanced classification is really just what I consider to be difficult to learn, not difficult, not uncommon or anything like that. So that's what I'm coming up with, and that'll probably be released May. If I'm really lucky, it'll be the end of May, right before I go to Korea. But yeah, that'll be a course that'll be released the end of May, which is all about making longer sentences. But something I can kind of say about that before is long, complex sentences in Korean are not difficult. Yeah, bigger than not more lessons in the beginner class, but more content, more example sentences, more grammar forms. Each single lesson in this new course, except for the first one, which is just the introduction, each single lesson is like 10 or so of the beginner course lessons stuck together in length, like really, really long. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. And long sentences in Korean are really simple, actually. Don't worry about making long sentences in Korean. All they are short pieces stuck together. So if you can conjugate adjectives, if you can describe verbs by using the nominalization forms, so that would be like 기 or 는 것. So like 하다 would become 하기 or 하는 것, either one of those two. And then you know the basic order of the sentence. That plus a bunch of grammar forms can get you to these complex sentences. There are no grammar forms that span multiple like parts of sentences where it's there are some grammar forms which will use something in the first and something in the second part that they have to relate, but most grammar forms don't even do that. Most grammar forms are just one little piece, like a Lego you stick together. So I would say don't worry about long sentences at all. Like, I know you are worried because you want to make longer sentences. I would say don't stress about that, because I've never worried about it. If you worry about the grammar itself, the pieces, once you've gotten the pieces together, your long sentences make themselves. It's kind of like, trying to think of a comparison. I can't think of a good comparison, but once you get to that point where you've learned the basics, you'll no longer have that question anymore of how do I make longer sentences, because it's just the basics stuck together. There's a lot of grammar out there in Korean, and the more of it you know, the longer, more complicated sentences you can make. But there isn't like a trick to it, because longer sentences are not anything special. It's just this exact same basic grammar stuck together. And even most complex grammar forms that you'll learn are just basic grammar forms stuck together too. So if you know that grammar form and you learn the other one, like, and this is actually how I like teaching. I like teaching in pieces. I don't like teaching like one grammar form and this is the grammar form and there you go, because that grammar form might have 10 versions of it that all come from the same pieces. So I like teaching the pieces. Like, there's a grammar form. Well, actually, there's a bunch of grammar forms that use nada after the cool form. Like, so cool is and then, and nada is used for like saying after it's occurred. So like, you don't really have to think about this one. Just know that the form is nada and then. So this is a emphatic form that's used to say after something has happened. And there are many versions of this, and you don't have to learn them all individually so much as long as you memorize the main one. So like you can see like 하고, like for example, 하다 would become 하고 나면. So like if you finish doing something. So if you do something and then after it's over is the literal meaning, but if you finish do something. Or 고 나니까. You finish something and then after it, 니까, you realize something. Or after you finish something, and then after that, something related to that. So this is basically the same thing as the regular, like Hayes Hall, like the regular Sol form. If this is going over your head, don't worry. You probably haven't learned any of these forms yet, but they're actually really simple because they all work in the same way. So I would focus on just the pieces of the grammar forms. But there are going to be a ton of different versions of every grammar form that if you just learn the individual pieces, it's not really that hard. Okay, I think, oh, Sunny Southpaw asks another question and gave a donation. So I'm going to put them up here. Thank you for your $5 tri-tip. Let's see. I overthink when I'm trying to speak in Korean, you say, but my reading level in Korean is good. Okay. Any tips for not overthinking so much when speaking Korean? Yeah, so you're trying to make more complicated sense. You want to sound smart. I mean, I want to sound smart when I'm talking in English. I try. And when I'm talking Korean, I want to sound smart. So you think a lot like, oh, should I say this? Should I say this form? Should I say this form? I've made a video about this before, but the secret to sounding smart or sounding intelligible in Korean is to actually go backward and not try to make that sentence that's a little bit hard, that you're not quite sure, and instead make something that you're a little more confident in that's shorter. Because to a Korean that's listening, if they hear a 3-word sentence that sounds like really good or close to perfect, they're going to think amazing. Versus if they hear a 10-word sentence that's, you know, has mistakes in it, they can't hear pronunciation or they use the wrong verb, they're going to be like, that person doesn't speak Korean that well yet. Even if the person who made the 10-word sentence knows a lot more vocabulary and grammar than that person who only did the short one, it doesn't matter because Koreans are not trained to identify someone's Korean level. They only hear accurate sentence, good Korean, inaccurate sentence, So don't stress too much about making, at the same time, don't stress too much about making longer sentences. Koreans don't care. All they want is to understand what you're saying and to be able to clearly hear it. That's it. So if you're not really sure about how to say something, try to say it shorter. If you feel more confident in the basics, then try to talk around it. Like maybe if you're already comfortable with basics, you just don't know this one word, but instead of guessing it and getting it wrong, why don't you try like asking them, is this the word I should use? Or try talking around it with more basic words. But yeah, it all comes down to though, shorter sentences that you feel kind of confident in. You don't have to be like 100% confident, but like try a shorter version of what you want to say. So like instead of saying, like your friend might say, oh, what do you want to do today? Oh, and you want to say, 배가 좀 아파가지고 그냥 집에 있을까 하는데, like, I'm thinking of staying at home because my stomach hurts a little bit. What do you think? Instead of doing this, be like, 배가 좀 아픈데요. Like, 배가 좀 아파요. 배 아파요. Like, you can shorten it. You can do a shorter sentence that you feel kind of confident about. Maybe you're not 100% sure, but you're like, I think this is, just shorten it. Just make it shorter. You'll naturally get better as you get more confident and you hear more Korean. But there's no reason to constantly like stress about like trying to make these really long natural sentences. That comes later. Okay. Really appreciate all these tri-tip from people. Okay. We got another question. While I was answering that question, I got another question from Suzanne. Suzanne sent a question. So let me listen to that really quick. Okay, we got a question. So let me play that question. Well, let me just take them off of hold here. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, I'll put you on.
안녕하세요, 빌리 선생님. 제 이름은 수전이고 브라질에서 와서요. 만나서 반갑습니다. I would like to ask you about the differences between the grammar key and 는 것. I'm going crazy trying to learn these particles.
Okay. That's a good question. So, her question is, oh yeah, take care. I am Ben, but with an I. Yes. I think this will be our last question, unless anyone submits any really quick. But I think this is going to be our last question for the stream today. Then I'm gonna drive home, gonna punch out. You're asking about these two nominalization forms. So there are two ways. Actually, there are three, but the third one you don't need to learn about it as a grammar form, fortunately, because the third one, I'll tell you this really first. That's with adding after a consonant or a mium after a vowel. This form is another nominalization form. This is only used in words that will also appear in the dictionary. And it also appears in some grammar forms, but it'll always appear with the grammar form when you're learning it, so you never have to learn it separately. This one you don't actually have to worry about as a nominalization form, because like I said, it's only used in those specific grammar forms, and it'll be always taught when it is. Yeah, it'll be any word that uses that it'll have its own reference in the dictionary already. Okay, so ki and 는 것. So let's take a basic example. 수영하다. You take the verb stem 하. 수영하기. So swimming. Instead of 수영하다 to swim, you get 수영하기, meaning swimming. So this is the ing form, right? Well, so is this. 는 것. 수영하는 것 also means swimming. So which one do you use? The reason that this is confusing is because when you make a very short, simple sentence, I like swimming. Swimming is fun. If it's really short, by that I mean not really natural, not common, but a really short sentence where you're just saying, this is fun, I like this. If it's a 3-word sentence in English and you're translating it into Korean, swimming is difficult, you can use either one and they'll both be fine. But if it's not a sentence like that, a sentence straight out of a textbook, 는 것, for everything. Anytime you're going to talk about a verb, you're going to say swimming would be a great idea, but I'm really good at swimming, or anything like that. I actually do enjoy swimming sometimes. Any sort of sentence you're making where you're talking about the verb itself, 는 것, every time, it'll sound more natural and it's more common. Back to the thing I just said though before. If it's a really short sentence, I like this, either one's fine, but 는 것 has a slightly more polite feeling to it, a slightly more formal feel to it than ki. So keep that in mind if you really want to be picky about it, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. You can use either one for really, really short sentences. So use 는 것. Now, when is ki then used? Well, anytime you're using anytime you are not describing that verb, you're going to use ki. So what do I mean by that? Well, there are actually a few main situations where you do that. One of the first ones is if you're making a to-do list. A to-do list, you just have hiking, swimming, shopping, reading, like that. All those are INGs. Anytime you're not describing the verb at all, you're just saying the verb as it is. Because you're not describing it, use ki. So anytime the verb is not being described, use ki. Do not say 공부하는 것, 수영하는 것. Don't write that in a list it would sound weird because you're describing a verb when you're doing this. Literally, I mean, actually, if we want to talk about this in a higher level, literally, 는것 is describing the verb. The fact or the act of 는, doing or being, whatever verb it is be used after. So it is literally describing the verb. 기 is the verb itself without any description on it. So anytime you're describing the verb, talking about the verb itself, like talking about doing the verb, use this, which is like every single time. To-do list is one thing, but another time you're going to see this used, and you're going to see it used all the time, is grammar forms. Because grammar forms, like a really basic one is like to say because. Like 기 때문, and then 이다 you can attach at the end, or like 때문에, because of doing this. If it's in a grammar form, you're going to use this form because it's part of the grammar form. You're not actually describing the verb with the grammar form. It's being used together with the verb, but you're not directly describing the verb when you're saying 때문. You're saying it is because of, you're just listing it as a reason. So if you're actually describing the verb, it's always going to be 는것. If you're simply doing a grammar form, and you'll learn it with the grammar form, it's not like you have to guess which grammar forms. It'll always be presented with the grammar form. Anytime you're not describing the verb, 기, anytime you are describing the verb, which is going to be like 99% of the things you do with a verb, 는것. So if you want to say like 한국어를 배우는 것이 일본어를 배우는 것보다 쉬워요. Learning Korean is easier than learning Japanese. Notice learning, studying. I'm describing it. You use this. You would not say 한국어 공부하기가 일본어 공부하기보다 쉬워요. You could say that, but it's going to be more common to say 는것 in like every case where you're describing a verb. And then this will be for when you're not describing a verb. If, however, you accidentally misuse it, you accidentally use the wrong one, literally no one is going to care. So don't beat yourself up over it. And they'll always understand you. Unless you use it in a grammar form, then they might be like, oh, I don't really understand you. But other than that, yeah. Let me check if I have any more last minute calls. I don't think I do. Oh, hold on. I got a donation. Is that from Asteria also? Another tri-tip. Asteria. Thank you. Actually is a tri-tip. Tri-tip's about $10. Thank you so much, Asteria. You say another tri-tip. Also, do you have other recommendations for places that are rich in history to visit in Korea? Yeah. Gyeongju. I've never actually been, but Gyeongju is a really famous place in Korea for like historical buildings and stuff. They say you could spend like a whole week and not see it all. I can't tell you about it. I've never been there. Jeju. It depends on the type of historical stuff you want to see, though. Every city, though, will have stuff hidden that is historical, if you know where to look for it. Even in, like, the center of Seoul, where you think they're, like, nothing historic, there's so much stuff there. Yeah, if you want specifics, let me know what city you're going to go to, and I can tell you what they have. But everywhere is going to have historic stuff. Everywhere is going to have historic stuff. Some more or less. Usually the larger the city, or if it was a city that was like just wasted from the Korean War or previously from other parts, then you might not find as much. But yeah, every city will have something kind of historic that you can do. Suwon just tends to have a lot. I feel like a lot of it just kind of got ignored. So a lot of it's just still standing there. Cities that are like smaller cities are also going to have lots of stuff usually. But yeah, anywhere you go, I'm trying to think if there's a specific. Busan has some, but it's like outside of the outskirts of Busan, you're going to find a lot. If you want to go to Busan, then you're going to find a lot of cool stuff that was like historic, but historic right after the war. So it depends on what kind of history you're looking for. How old of history do you want? If you go up to the city of Andong, so Andong is, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours from Seoul. I'm not actually sure. I've never taken a bus there. I've only driven there. Andong is another city that has a lot of historic stuff there. And there is a old Buddhist study hall. It's like that is, I swear it's like from like 1,000 years ago or something. It has like a really old surviving wood building there. It was like a place where Buddhists would go to study, and it's really cool. So that kind of thing, but it depends what city you go to. Another city I'd probably recommend checking out would be Andong if you have some time. Okay, let me check the chat. I think I'm gonna head to the break room for a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna go on my break. I'm punching out for today. Yeah. Cool. You too. Yeah, let's just check some of the comments because I missed some comments in chat while I was working today. Donation made via PayPal. Oh yes, I did happen to see that, fortunately. Jinju is cool. I've been there as well. Jinhae is another cool city. Been there. Tongyang, haven't been there. Heard good stuff about it. Jeju says the woman who free dive for shellfish and have for centuries. Yeah, you're talking about the Haenyeo in Jeju, which you can see if you go to Jeju Island. But it's a dying occupation. There aren't very many people who do it. It's mostly older people, and by that I mean like 70, 80 years old. And most people don't want to do that job. So it's a really rare thing if you can go see that. Educational Moose says Andong is beautiful. It's pretty empty and not many people live there, but they try to be made for young couples. No, Andong has a lot of people actually, especially if you go to the city. Andong also has some fun places in it. If you're up there, I can recommend. Of course, there's like a Hanok little town where there's the old Hanok, the old types of houses. You can stay there. I have before. Don't recommend it unless you like getting bit by mosquitoes with no air conditioning and no warm water. Other than that, A+. And the city, though, is really cool. They also have an area that they use for filming dramas. So they have all of these drama sets. This is not like, it's not so much of a tourist place. Like if you go to the Minsokchon in Suwon, it's like a traditional folk village. It's kind of like a theme park that they sometimes use for drama. They sometimes use for drama filming, but they have like vendors there that sell food and snacks. You can do activities and see performances and stuff like that and hear music. It's not like that, but in Andong, they have an actual, like just a drama set that you can visit. And they keep changing buildings and making new things. And they use it for filming dramas. You can just walk around there and it's pretty cool too. So that's something you can see in Andong that you can't see other places. Lexica says the YouTube channel. Oh yeah, I know that channel. I go Bart. Welcome to my dong. That's right. Ayakata says my grammar teacher is from Jeju and says that they say ui as possession particle pronounced as it is read and not like a. Maybe they do. I'm not sure if that's an older Jeju type of thing, but modern day Jeju is indistinguishable from regular Korean you're going to hear anywhere else, with the exception of a few phrases. Yeah, Jeju dialect is unfortunately very close to extinct. There are a few thousand people who speak it natively, and the other people who speak it would be like a few phrases here and there, or some people who are trying to help keep the language alive by purposely studying it. But other than that, yeah, it's not really a thing you're gonna have to worry about too much. But yeah, if you're gonna go to Jeju, though, might as well learn some expressions for fun, because people do know a lot of the common expressions that they use there. And I made a video about that if you want to watch my channel. I actually had the official Jeju language, I'm trying to think of the name of the organization, but there's like an organization for preservation of Jeju language that I actually contacted in Jeju and sent them the script for the video that I made, and they gave some corrections and some feedback for it. So you can watch. So most of it, as a result, most of what I say in that video gets to be correct information because I had it checked before I actually filmed it and uploaded it. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to stop the stream for today. I think we had a good hotline. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. People want to send in their questions again next time. Kai says, what video do you have scheduled to come out that you're the most excited for? I just want to finish my sentence connectors course. That's all I want. That's all I want. I do have some more cheat sheets that are coming out soon. You won't have to wait too long for those. I have a colors cheat sheet and another cheat sheet on all the counters, which you've seen before. And those are coming out in a few weeks. A couple more videos I filmed with Jeremy will also be coming out. And I have a video about my 20th anniversary for learning Korean. I talk about things that I've learned and all that stuff. That one's coming out also, I think, next month. So there's still some other videos coming out, but I'm really just looking forward to posting my sentence connectors course more than anything. And Kai asks, will the course release all at once? No, unfortunately, I can't do that or else I'll have no videos to post while I'm in Korea. I'm thinking what I'll do is posting. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do. I don't want to say it because I might change my mind, but it won't be all at once. I'll just say that. Like before, there will be a book version, but before what I had for the conversation course, the videos, there are 20 videos and the book had 25. For this course, I'm not going to do that. The book has 20 lessons and the video course has 20 lessons, but instead the book will have a few extra, like each form, most forms will have an extra sentence or two for examples. So if you want some extra example sentences, and they're all voiced, you can get the book for that. But the contents of the course, the grammar is the same in the book and the video. So if you don't want to wait for the videos to go up, you can get the book or watch the videos for free. Either way is fine. Kreden asks, can 면 and do be combined? Are you asking about the word 면도, which means shaving? You can do 면서도, which you'll hear a lot, like even while doing something. 그렇게 하면서도, like even while you are doing this. You can hear that. If you have an example of something else, if you're asking something specific, do share it and I can let you know if it's a valid grammar or not. And also let me know what it is that you think it would mean. Koresh says, what's a misconception about Korea that's portrayed in K-drama? That Korea... I mean, no disrespect to any Koreans that are watching this stream. Maybe I should just bite my tongue. I'll just say that they're not realistic portrayals of romance in Korea. Let's just say that. Johnny, thank you. Hey, Johnny. Jonny. That's an interesting spelling for it. And Johnny, you ask a question. When I talk to my girlfriend, I often dumb down to grammatically wrong sentences. Any tips to stick to grammatically correct sentences? Can you give me an example, Johnny? Your question's fine. Can you give me an example? Like, you dumb down your sentences and then they're grammatically wrong is what you're saying? It sounds to me like you don't have the foundations yet. You don't have the floor of your Korean house, your Korean language house hasn't been built yet. And that's okay. Some sources, not to trash any other source, but because you might be learning from various sources. So I'm not sure, but some methods of learning Korean involve using like various different sources. And then you don't get the basics. You need the basics first. And there are lots of websites out there that will teach you the basics. Talk to Me in Korean does. A few others, like you can get the foundation first. You need that floor before you can start to kind of put up the walls and have fun. So I would go back and review. Go back to the beginning. Obviously, if you know the alphabet, you can skip that, but go back to the beginning, pretend you're a brand new student and just get the basics all polished and covered down, because you really shouldn't have very simple, but grammatically incorrect sentences. If you do, that's the basic, that's the floor. You need to get the floor down really nice. And then once you start building on top of it, you can have a little bit of fun. So I would say go back, review. I have a free course. This isn't promotion. I made the free course literally because I was so tired of people asking me where they could learn Korean for free. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself, as Thanos said. So I just have that as an option, but there are other places that have good free courses, other places that have good paid courses. Find something. Literally find anything you want. But finish the basics, the very basics, just to make basic sentences. So I would do that. Americanized romance. I would say yes. Yeah, that's the easiest way I can say is there are huge misconceptions of, and I'm not saying this based on my relationship with my wife. I'm saying this based on other people's relationships with their partners. So it's not this isn't from personal experience. This is from personally seeing it and hearing about it. Korean relationships are nothing like you see in dramas. They are, and they're not like what you would expect in whatever country you're from. They're Korean. They're very different things, very different expectations. If I started talking about this, the entire stream will be about how Korean relationships are messed up and all the issues with them. And obviously I can't generalize everyone because people have great relationships in Korea too. But the types of issues you'll run into, a lot of them are different. I think they're more common. You'll more commonly run into different issues in Korean relationships than you would in a Western relationship, for example. Not to say that you can't have the same issues in both, because people are people, you know. But the common types of issues are going to be different for Korean. So that's all I'll say. Oh, Kai says, what video did you make about to-do lists? Do you mean, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean, Kai? Can you clarify what you mean? And thank you for your donation. But please clarify. Kimchi Jjigae says, how do you say to want without saying 고 싶다? If you mean to want something or to want to do something. If you're talking about that you want to do something, well, there are actually a few forms you can use. But if you're talking about you want something, judging by your question, I'm not going to go too far away from the basics. But if you say you want something, you use the verb 가지다, which means to have, and you can say 가지고 싶다. So 가지고 싶어요, 가지고 싶습니다, 가지고 싶은데, anything like that. You conjugate 싶다. So 싶어요. You can say 펜을 가지고 싶어요. I want to have a pen. This can also shorten to 갖다. 가지다 can shorten to 갖다. So you can have 갖고 싶어요. 갖고 싶다. Sorry, I'm like trying to say 싶다 and 싶어요 at the same time. 갖고 싶어요. I want to have it. 펜을 갖고 싶어요. That's how you can say you want to have something. I could go into this further, but I'll keep the answer simple. 싶다 is just the form to mean that you want to do a verb. It by itself doesn't mean to want. It just means you want to do some verb. So therefore, it's only used with actions too. You're not going to want green. It's like you want to pick green. You want to choose green. You want to use green, something like that. So it's only used with actions. Okay, Kai says, people in chat were talking about a video made where Ki and Nungolt and making to-do lists, but they couldn't find it. I probably have mentioned it before in my nominalization, my old video on nominalization for the Learn Korean series with KiCat, like one of the earliest videos. But I also retaught it again in the upcoming course I'm doing. Same stuff. I think it's in lesson 2. Yeah, lesson 2 for the new course that I'm doing. So, but it's basically what I just said here. It's pretty much the same thing. If you're describing the verb, nungot. If you're not describing the verb, ki. That's a quick little guide for you. And you're not going to be wrong with that. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Leia Lindsay says, awesome format. Glad I got to catch it. It was a new thing. I just wanted to try it out. I don't know. What did you all think? Do you want more? Obviously, I'm not going to do them every week. I have classes to do. Do you want more Korean language hotlines? Do you want more of this? 좋으면서도 싫은 척해요. Yeah, even though while you like it, you're pretending like you don't. And you wouldn't be combining 면 and 도. That's why I was asking them if they had an example. You can combine 면서 and 도, but not just 면 and 도. Kai says, may I have my dabs? Yes, you may. Kai's cashing in her 14 dabs. Where's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Making me do dabs while I'm in the break room. How dare you? Thank you again, Kai, for your generous donation. Oh, Zoe asks, can you give recommendations as to how you can deliver sarcasm effectively? Each time I try to, I feel like it doesn't get across right, and I'm wondering if it's purely tonal that suggests it. Okay, I've talked about this before in a video I did in the Glass with Billy where I interviewed a Korean. We talked about Korean humor and types of acceptable humor. Sarcasm is totally acceptable in Korean if you make it really obvious. So this type of sarcasm is not acceptable in Korea. You cannot do dry humor in Korean because they think you're serious. They don't have enough exposure to this. Most people, some people might. You know, I'm not going to categorize all Koreans because you'll find a Korean who loves this. Monty Python is popular in Korea too for people who know it. There are fans. Dry humor doesn't exist so much. Obvious sarcasm is a thing in Korean, and you don't have to even be good friends with the person to do it. It just has to be really obvious. I would say though, keep it to your friends so you don't accidentally misuse it, because it could come across, even if it's obvious, it could come across as you're being mean. Your friends though, it should be obvious. Your friends should know you're joking, and make sure that you say it in a way that you would, like how you would say it in English when you're obviously trying to say something sarcastic. Like, oh, 잘한다. Wow, you're really good. Like, really sell it. Okay? Make it really obvious that you're insulting them, and it's okay for your friends. Another exception that you can get away with it is in a, I'll just categorize this as a client and business person relationship. So this applies like when you're buying stuff from someone. If you're buying something from a street vendor, anytime where you're the customer and they're supposed to be serving you and being nice to you, in this sort of relationship, there also are, it's usually kind of treated as like a temporary friendship because, you know, they want your business and you just want to get a straight answer about their products. So they're letting you try something. They're selling you something, anything like that. It kind of is like temporary. We're friends, even though you're polite. So that's why if you've seen people do it other times, it might be one of those situations. But in general though, just with your friends and make it obvious. Like they should totally know like, oh, like you're teasing them or it's something really sarcastic and it's clear. Anyone hearing you would know you're being sarcastic. If you do it seriously, even if it's a joke, even if you would get it right away in English, don't do it because it can come across as rude. And your friends might get it, but other people hearing might think you're insulting the other person. So yeah, careful about sarcasm. But if you do it like this, Koreans like sarcasm too. Do Korean people know the land speed of an unladen swallow? So yeah, funny story about that. Yeah. Keith, so I filmed a video about tips for traveling to Korea for your first time. I think I did. And in the video, I released it was like 2 years ago. For the video, I was walking around and I was interviewing people and I was trying to find someone I can interview. So I went into the place I normally do interviews. I was trying to find someone I can interview who could tell me that joke. I was going to recreate the land speed of an unladen swallow joke. And I sat down next to a guy. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm in Korea. Like, I'm doing a video. Do you mind if I film you? You don't have to answer any question. I'm going to tell you exactly what to say. And I'm going to say this. And I showed him the video clip I want him to copy. And he's like, oh, it's Monty Python. And I'm like, yes. And so I had him copy the, what do you mean? African or European swallow? To me, after I answer the question, and then I look confused and walk off. And he's like, he shrugs. So if you find that video on my channel in the Q&A, I think it's in the Q&A playlist, you can find it. Yeah, it was totally spontaneous. I didn't know that guy would know it, but some Koreans do know the average airspeed of an unladen swallow. And yes, it does Apparently coconuts do migrate, which is another interesting thing. They float across the water. But yeah. Okay, I'm just reading comments. We're gonna stop. I gotta go home. Okay, I gotta go home. It's been a long day. I know I've gotten lots of tri-tip steak, but we should end the live stream. Okay, I'm gonna go till 4. I know I said I was gonna stop before. I'm gonna go right until 4, so 10 more minutes, and then I'm ending this live stream. But yeah, and they actually did Spamalot in Korean. There is a Korean production of Spamalot, and if you search, you can find clips of it. It's great. So yeah, there are Koreans who are into that kind of humor, just like there are Koreans who are fans of The Office. Johnny, hey Johnny, thanks. I appreciate your donation. I keep dropping my. This magnet is so weak. I keep dropping it. Okay, Johnny asks, how come sometimes in Korean you not conjugate and you just learn the basic term like 보고 싶다? Okay, what you're asking about is actually something known as plain form. Now, believe it or not, but what you're saying not conjugated. It actually is conjugated. Believe it or not. So the plain form works differently for descriptive verbs and action verb. So an action verb would be anything that you're doing. So like to do, 하다, 먹다, to eat, 가다, to go, 살다, to live, 놀다, to play, anything like that. Any action, anything that's doing something like close the door or whatever, turn on the light. Those are all actions. Descriptive verbs are not actions. So that would be like to be jealous, cute, funny, delicious, cool, hot, bright, dark, small, big. All of those are descriptive verbs. But the reason they're called verbs is because both of these conjugate. You'll use them. You're not just going to say like takda, small, hada, to do. You're going to say tagayo. You have to conjugate it. To be small or whatever. Action verbs conjugate to the plain form by either attaching nun if the verb stem ends with a consonant. So like 먹다, 먹 ends in a consonant, so you get 먹는, 먹는, 먹는다, and then you attach 다 at the end. So if it ends in a vowel though, you'd attach this. Now this isn't going to be a lesson on plain form. You can watch other videos for that. But essentially you conjugate action verbs to plain form by doing this. Descriptive verbs, however, conjugate as if, well, you basically, here, I'll tell you how to do it. There's a really tricky thing you have to know when you conjugate a descriptive verb into the plain form. So let's take the descriptive verb, 귀엽다, to be cute. Okay, descriptive verb, not an action verb. You're not doing anything. It's just describing something. So for a descriptive verb, first you have to take the stem. You always take the stem. Okay, so this is the tricky part. So after you get the stem, you attach ta. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can see here why it's the exact same thing, but you actually are conjugating it. The reason is there is a past tense and a future tense plain form as well, like something was. And plain form is used for a lot of things, but the most common would be for making quotes. Like someone said this. Like if you say someone said she is cute. 귀엽다. cool. 말했어요. So you would attach cool after a plain form and then use your verb for someone said or asked or screamed or yelled or questioned or whispered or whatever method of communication you choose, or wrote or heard that, any sort of quote. So that's what you use plain form. And you say maybe someone heard they were cute. Well, then there's a different conjugation for that. But it is a conjugation. So that's what you're talking about. It's just the regular descriptive verb, plain form. And if you don't know about plain form, check out my channel for how to make quotes. Or I did a live stream about that. I did a bonus live stream, I think a few months ago, about making quotes. We talked about all of the conjugation for that and when and where you use it. It's also in my beginner course if you've never heard of that. But yeah, that's all it is. Now there is a version of there is the same thing for an action verb, but it's a different usage. And that would be a different lesson. But that's not what you're talking about. Did you ever notice in the witch scene, the guy in the back tying coconut? Yes, I did. I did notice that. Yeah. I've seen that movie a lot. Some call me Tim. Yes. This is Korean, truly made simple. Kai said, I never saw it. What did you never see? Oh, the coconuts. Yeah, and every time after that, when I would get a coconut, I would always try to split it in half or saw it in half to make horse hooves. I've seen I've seen multiple live shows of Monty Python, including one where you were like encouraged to bring props and do stuff during the show. Stuff like that. This stuff, it's like back when I was a teenager. I don't remember clearly where it was. Somewhere in Hollywood, I think. Okay. All right. 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to end my shift for today. I'm going to clock out and go back home. Suin asks, what software do you consider the most useful for learning Korean besides Anki? I do like Anki. I wish that the iPhone version was free, but I understand that the Apple developers charge. So they charge more money, so it's not really something that they can do for free. But still, it's a bit expensive. Anki, I like that. Any vocabulary app, though, is going to be it's going to be the same, really. The nice thing about Anki is just that it's open source. So it's like if you're a programming nerd, it's cool. But as far as like features, it's really, at the end of the day, it's just a vocab flashcard app. That's it. And there are others that you can use as well if you prefer. So like Memrise, Quizlet, a couple others like that can do pretty much the same thing. Other apps or other software that I like, not software, but a website. I really like Naver Dictionary. You should get that. Or the Korean Learner's Dictionary. It's called that. The Korean Learner's Dictionary is also another good one if you don't want so much information from Naver Dictionary. I like Naver Dictionary though. Besides that, nothing really. I mean, whatever software you want to use for practicing, whatever games you have for practicing Korean. Oh, Green Tea says you can use Anki for free on iPhone through the web URL. Yeah, that's true. AnkiWeb.net, I think it is. You can also do your flashcard review on a browser if you want. So, okay, that's another alternative if you want. I know though, if you have it on your phone, it's a little bit easier to deal with, like pushing all the buttons and everything, but that's another option. Seems to be a nice workaround though. But yeah, I do really like Anki. To-do list this week. Watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yeah. Oh man, that's such a classic movie. It's just so weird. Lexica says Youglish is a good site for listening to examples. Yeah, they have, I think it automatically will find clips of videos by using the subtitles and then display that sentence that uses it. Taeyang's Kuma. Hey, thank you, Taeyang. Or should I call you Kuma? Now I'm really running out of space here. I think that's the last one I can write down before I have to write it here. Just like cover the board. There's no room for writing any notes. Just a simple thank you and have a great week to you and everyone. Thank you. Okay, 3 more minutes and then I'm going to go home and clock out for today. Mikey says, Billy, how's the weather when you're going? Humid? Yeah, I'm going to be there very beginning of June, and I'll be there through July. It is, I wouldn't say super hot, but it's kind of hot. So you just want to wear a t-shirt and quite humid. So yeah, I'll try to stay out of the direct sun when I can, drink lots of water. If you get really sweaty, take an extra shower at night. It's not pleasant, but June is usually not terrible, and neither is most of July. August is pretty miserable, I'd say. If you can avoid going in August and September, do. If you have to, though, then you can still have a fun time. Just really, you want to stay out of the sun. Just stay just don't go outside if you can. And if you have to, drink lots of cool, refreshing drinks. Take public transportation as much as possible because it's air conditioned. But yeah, I really don't like being in Korea past the middle of July, especially past the end of July. Autumn says, do you have any recommendations for speaking Korean with native besides Hello Talk? Yeah, Tandem, Conversation Exchange, Interpals. Use whatever you want. Use whatever apps you can find Koreans on. There are other apps that Koreans use as well, but you might need a Korean phone to register for them. They have Meetup apps as well. Can't wait to see what choices we have for the next class. Yeah, me neither. I'm not sure what they are yet. I haven't looked. Leslie says, can you use ChatGPT for conversation or to practice until you meet a friend? The current generation of artificial intelligence, they call it AI, right? That's what they call it. And that's on purpose because there is another word that they're not using, which is actual AI. That's AGI. When you see sci-fi movies that have AI, it's this. If you saw like, Blade Runner or iRobot or any of those movies, whether the AI is evil or not, it could be Her, that movie Her. That is what's known as artificial general intelligence. It's artificial intelligence that is like actually aware of itself, that can act as a person for the most part. And it's general in that it can do anything. It's not limited to just having conversations or making images or whatever. And it can self-correct. So it can think about things. It actually can think. What we have right now is this, which is something we've had for a very long time. I mean, we've had online translators since I was a kid. Like, maybe not when I was a kid. Since I was a teenager, there have been online translators. They're very bad. But there have been like, you can play chess. If anyone had the Battle Chess on DOS, if anyone ever played that game, that had really good AI. So the current generation of AI does not speak Korean. In fact, it doesn't speak any language, but its Korean is especially bad because it's right most of the time. Let's say it'll give you a good natural sentence 90% of the time. You'll never know when that 10% wrong sentence comes up. Because if you're using it for learning, you're not going to be able to question it when it's wrong. I can use it and I can laugh at it when it's wrong because it's wrong a lot. And I use it for fun. If you're using it for actually learning, you have to be careful. I would say use it with a big grain of salt because it's commonly wrong and it'll double down on its mistakes. And you will never know. It'll give you a sentence that looks Korean, smells Korean, but something's off. And I actually featured that in my last course that I did. I did let me just restart this. The website keeps crashing. In my conversation course, if you watch the first episode it's a free conversation course, but episode 1, Keycat suggests using artificial intelligence to generate a bunch of sentences for cool old chess game. Yeah, I'm talking about that. Yeah, battle chess, where you attack and then they would have like the animations of each of the chess pieces had an animation with each of the other ones. Yeah, it was a fun game. And in the first episode of the conversation course, Keycat's suggesting that we just make conversation sentences using AI. And I show an actual example. I show a slide of a conversation, which I actually did have ChatGPT generate for the video for fun. And it's correct Korean. It's grammatically correct. It's real Korean. It sounds like a conversation if you read it in English, but if you read it in Korean, it is the most awkward, like, I won't swear. It's bad. It's garbage. And it still does that. I mean, it's impressive how much better AI has gotten in the past year and 2 years, and still how far it is from where it would need to be to be at a level where I would recommend it safely to everyone. So I'm not going to say avoid it. I would say use it with lots of salt. Understand that what it's telling me could be a complete fabrication. And if you're okay with that, as long as you keep that in the back of your mind, use it as much as you want. Make sentences, practice talking with it. ask it questions, ask it to explain things. It's fun, right? Most of the things it tells you are going to be correct. But just keep that in the back of your mind. Hey, this might be total baloney. And you're fine. So that's how I use it. And it's fun that way. But yeah, like I said, I can identify when it makes mistakes, when it makes stuff up. You probably can't. So I can't like fully endorse it beyond that. And the same goes for practicing speaking with it. It is very awkward sometimes. So if you know that though, you just want to practice basic sentence. You just want to know, is this sentence correct? And it tells you, oh, of course, it's 100% correct. You can think, maybe that's right. But yeah, I've heard this a lot now from him, or her, or whatever the ChatGPT's personality is. I've heard this a lot from it. Probably is correct. I'm probably making sense. You can use it like that. Okay. Blaming the poor bear. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun for creative stuff. So scheduling, organizing, making schedules. Okay, that's enough for today. I went overtime. I really need to clock out. Let me just see if I can, hold on. I gotta go back to the office for a second and talk to my boss. Hey, can I go home? No, I'm not gonna get that. Can I go home? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll come back in tomorrow. I won't. Yeah. 6 a.m. Sure. Yeah, I'll open the place. Yeah. Okay. Everyone, thank you for coming. I'm gonna go ahead and clock out. Maybe I'll see you again at this place. We'll do another one sometime in the future. Thank you again also for everyone who supported this stream, who supports my channel. All of you for watching. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors as well today: Kyla, Lexica, Sunny Southpaw, Art Maxwell, Glass Artist, Kai, Evolving Brain, Asteria, Flo Purdy, Scoop, Keith, Johnny, and Taehyung's Kuma. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. Chocolate chip cookies. And then he said, phone her, I hardly know her. Did you hear about George? You guys are still here? Go home. It's over.